Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network. For the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews, press 1.
Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
From the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network for movie talk, we bring you on an expedition through the depths of the movie industry to discuss the amazing, terrible, and amazingly terrible movies based on video games. Our hosts' entire lives are dedicated to a single goal. Probably answering the age-old question, do games make good movies?
Hold it! Welcome to Video Game Movie Anatomy. We're doing a really, really fun one today. Thank you for joining us. I am one of your hosts, the Internet Soapbox, Mark Donica. Joining me, as always, as the wonderful Miss Stacey Shuttleworth. Stacey.
Hi, guys. What's up?
Today's movie. Hopefully you can recognize the music. Hopefully you weren't just blind. Well, if you are blind, I sincerely apologize. But if you saw all of our graphics, all of the title, we are covering Ace Attorney, otherwise known as Gyakuten Saiban in Japan. This film, I'm back. 2016, this film in it right off the bat. This movie, let's just do the breakdown right now. Rookie defense attorney Phoenix Wright is thrust into the limelight after the murder of his mentor, Mia Fey. The accused murderer is Mia's younger sister, Maya Fey, who comes from a family line of spirit mediums. Wright faces off against a childhood friend and rival prosecutor, Miles Edgeworth, on the case. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
It barely covers what this movie is about.
I mean, for people who are watching this for the first time, stop, go find the movie, watch the movie. Because here on Video Game Movie Anatomy, we dissect the film adaptations of your favorite interactive media. And with something as story-heavy as the Ace Attorney series, you just don't screw up. Just don't screw up. It's that simple. Stacey, what is your history with the Ace Attorney series?
You know, I actually have very little play history with this series. I have seen it all over the internet for years, though. I'm very familiar with the reaction images, with most of the characters, just because of how they've been presented online. But before going into this movie, I kind of did my research on the first game to kind of make sure to pick apart the similarities. But other than that, it wasn't really something I grew up on, aside from kind of the external influences. Yeah,
and that's for me too. I tried it once when it first came out for the Game Boy Advance, and it just went right over my head. It wasn't the type of game that I was into at the time. But after watching the movie for the first time, I got to go back and play some of these. Wow.
I watched a lot of playtime. They're really fun.
So with Video Game Movie Anatomy, we like to give a speed run, which is sort of like a box quote, something that you see on the back of the box when you're at the video game store, like a Blockbuster, because those are still around.
What?
Physical media. So you see a quote on the back of the box, and that's essentially what we call our speed run. Stacey, do you have yours?
I do have mine. All right. So, my speed run would be Ace Attorney brings viewers into the courtroom with fast-paced and sometimes ludicrous action, managing to both introduce newcomers to the eclectic cast, including breakout attorney Phoenix Wright, and simultaneously capture the essence of the video game franchise that players wanted to experience in live-action format.
Boom! Straight up, to the point, a little bit more of the box, but that's a solid speed run. Very, very good way. Mine, I'm going straight to the point.
All right.
Phoenix Wright, if made in America, would have failed. The fact that it gets to stay in its home country of Japan makes it one of the greatest video adaptations to film ever made. Because if America tried making this movie, which I still hope they do, because there's a lot of legal shows that people are really into these days.
And they're very successful.
But
they're also very different.
Totally.
So that's...
One of the key moments of the Ace Attorney franchise is the humor, and I'm really happy that this movie didn't shy away from that. They couldn't. Capcom was directly involved, so with that, it made the drama that much more intense. It made you want to follow these characters that much more. So with that, speaking of the video game element, we're going to go into what we call our controller toss moment. The controller toss moment is when you're watching the movie or you're playing your favorite game and you silently have the "you have got to be kidding me," and you throw your controller across the room. We have done this as a positive spin as well as a negative spin, but what is your controller toss moment for Ace Attorney?
So I think my actual controller toss moment happened pretty early on. I had a really hard time with the first half hour of the film.
Really?
Getting into it. I did. So when the ghost of Mia shows up in the courtroom, just there, and it's so dramatic and ridiculous. I was so thrown by it. I was like, wait, what kind of movie am I watching? The intro had me weirded out a little bit and confused because I didn't understand what was going on. And then when the ghost started showing up, and I'm like, oh, okay, hold on. I had to recalibrate for a little bit before I could get back into it.
So the thing about Maya is there's a system that she uses for dead witnesses or things here or there, key witnesses that may have died, etc.,
Right.
and channels through them. But in the games, everybody can see them, as opposed to this, where it's just a
him,
vision for Wright.
Which is why it threw me so much.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. It just looks like he's kind of losing it in the courtroom here.
But they gave him the time for that.
They did.
And apparently
Constantly.
the witnesses could talk freely to the defendant and the prosecutors
Whenever
in that.
they wanted to. It worked like a real courtroom. It really did.
100%.
Absolutely, I believe it.
Well, I mean, that's I think the fun about I'm happy that they maintained the 3-day trial period that kind of kept the suspense up in the game,
Right.
And they translated it to film in such a very easy way. There's just so many cases. You got 3 days. That's all we got. That's all we have time for. Go.
get 'em done.
Let's zoom
Yeah.
through it. So for me, my controller toss moment was a positive one, but it was you've got to be. This is awesome. When they first reveal the projection system, and we have an image of it going up.
That was so cool.
That made it. For a second, you're like, okay, this is how they translate it from the game.
Right.
But they made it nobody was just like, what? Like, only Phoenix. Phoenix
Yeah.
was a classic movie protagonist in the fact that we were being introduced to this type of world through his eyes. So it made it that much more easier to get into.
Right.
And the projection system where they could throw evidence at each other was just like the game.
beautiful.
It felt
Yeah.
like the game. And the
great.
camera angles, anytime somebody would point their finger. Oh, God, I can't wait to talk about the cast.
Yeah.
But what was
They
your
covered
positive
that.
controller toss moment?
When they called Polly, the bird, to the stand. There was a bird on a stand taking the stand. It was beautiful. And I feel like that would be the moment when most reasonable people, at least in America, would have quit and been like, oh no, that's ridiculous. I'm out of here. And for me, that was like, yeah, no, I'm sitting down, buckling up. This is my movie.
Once
We're here.
Polly started talking and Phoenix talked about another witness to be the stand, I was like, I know that bird's going to go up there. So I wasn't surprised
Yeah.
by it. But
Oh yeah, no, I saw
the
it
name
coming,
card,
but it was still so good.
the name card, like every other witness got, was what got me. Just like,
It
Polly.
was perfect.
Really good. Really
It
well
was
done.
played super well.
Goodness me. This is such a fun movie, and we're gonna start by breaking down the similarities to the characters. Our starring role, Mr. Phoenix Wright, played by Hiroki Narimiya, and just look at that. I mean, one could argue that you get the hair right, you get everything right, but in his interpretation and his performance, you get that sort of bumbling, at least at first.
Overwhelmed.
That's a very good way to put
kind
it.
of. Yeah, what am I doing? That was kind of, I feel like that would be me in a courtroom, except way worse, so.
That makes him
I
that much more
identified.
relatable.
I absolutely identified.
And just a phenomenal job with even the button on his lapel that after winning the case, he rubs on a little bit. And even just the mannerisms, the poses. I'm sure there was a Capcom person on set to be like, all right, raise your shoulders just a little bit so that you can get the right thing. And we have one more in between there. Our next person, Maya Fey, played by Mirei Kiritani. So the one thing that I have with this casting is Maya is portrayed as a lot younger in the games.
Right.
So she's got a lot. It's a lot more innocent as opposed to in the movie where it just kind of comes off as ditzy because that's not a 17-year-old
it's kind
girl.
of this peppy innocence.
Yeah, and
that
that's
they play off of.
and that doesn't quite come across, but she serves her purpose in the film very well.
Yeah.
And she with what she was given, she did a fine job. And all of the awards for person most like their character.
Oh, man.
Takumi Saito as
Nailed it.
Miles Edgeworth. Oh my! Like even just like the way that he's holding his arms, even the little curve that he has in his finger when Miles points objection and hold it. Amazing.
It was beautiful.
This
it was to a T.
One of the most accurate video game character portrayals in a movie, and I flippin' loved it. And now I want, like they did with the game, I want the Miles Edgeworth movie. With this guy as the star.
Yeah, his own. That would be fantastic.
Amazing. We didn't get enough of this guy in the film. Much bigger character in the games. Dick
Also,
Gumshoe.
pretty different.
And very different.
Yeah.
Shunsuke Daito played, as we call him in the States, Dick Gumshoe. A lot younger than I would presume. Even just looking at the faces,
right.
Dick Gumshoe is a well-lived, down on his luck cop who's just like, I just want something to go right. Whereas, I like the portrayal. It was just like, I'm a cop.
He was still a good character in his own right, but he was very different.
But still a great performance, and I would this whole cast makes me want to see so much more from this world. Larry Butts, our next. Nope, that was my bad. Let's go with this one then. Ryo Ishibashi, played by plays Manfred von Karma. Wow. What a jerk. Much like the character design from the games, you look at this guy and you go, he's got something up his sleeve. There's something.
That is not a nice man.
No, eyebrows, dead giveaway.
Oh,
and who, no offense to Miles, he kind of probably gets it from him a bit, but who really has the ruffle these days?
Yeah.
Who has that cravat?
But he's got the cravat and he's got the pin. It's all too much.
But a wonderful portrayal to see him descend into the criminal that he's been the whole time, and seeing the tells while the testimony is going on and going forth while Phoenix is slowly unraveling it in his brain was like, great, that's the game. Like you see that in the game where they slowly start to come apart, like he adjusting his hair. That had a lot of fun with this character. Once you started going with that was... Our judge, Akira Emoto. Now, in the game, the judge is a lot more lively, to say the least.
He's very spirited in the game, and
in the movie serves a great purpose. There's a lot of energy in that courtroom to counter it, to slow it down with this judge. Was a wonderful decision, and I think it worked for the movie. For the game, it's all just sort of comedy in your face,
right?
And I don't blame him for the decisions that he made, and it made your reverence for the law that much more important.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I
liked it a lot.
level.
Do we have the other slide?
Well.
Did I forget to send you that other slide? No, 3 up. 1, nope, orange. Hi, there we go. This mother flippin' character, Mr. Larry Butts, played by Akiyoshi Nakao, awesome.
Fantastic.
You went that extra mile for the silliness and for the fun, and I think my favorite thing about the film as well as the games is you see these characters that are like, oh, that doesn't mean anything, and then as you go through the days, you start to see, oh, this is very important, and him,
he kind of had those.
He had those weird moments. Without him, the entire case would have been thrown out.
Yep.
I love it. This, the dedication that the creators had to making sure that you look at this character and you go, oh, that's Manfred. Oh, that's Larry. Oh, that's Miles. I mean, you would clearly know because the designs were the exact same. Like on Von Karma, all of the designs were the exact same as they were in the game. Just absolutely brilliant, absolutely wonderful. So let's talk about the movie itself, the plot. And it presented itself in phases that I think just it was kind of presented like a TV show where it was like, all right, this part is over and now moving on.
Right.
You start in small claims court essentially with Phoenix barely making it thanks to Mia, and then Mia gets murdered and you go to the first case, which is done in a day.
Yeah, it kind of builds from there.
And then you go to the the build of one day and it could be that easy and done. And then you go, will this go to day 2? Will this go to day 3? It's day 3. What do we do? All right,
How does this
we're
resolve?
going to break. We're going to have a quick break and then we'll be back. And then extra. But they pulled me along really well with the timing of all of the cases.
Once I got into it after that like half-hour mark, I thought the pacing was great. It kept you right there waiting to find out what was going on next.
Court cases you can use, or movies or TV shows involving court cases like this, there are a lot of times when you can see that's probably it. And the way that Manfred von Karma was presented in the movie, again, a little bit too perfect, but still that kind of menacing. He had the moment of let's do this for justice, whatever, sort of a handshake. But man, it guides you to those revelations with Phoenix.
Yes.
And that's a fun movie. That's a fun plot. What were some of your favorite moments from the movie?
From the movie.
Yeah.
Just in total. Well, aside from the bird being on the stand, which was just phenomenal. And then you already mentioned the first time the projection screen system dropped.
Yes.
But, oh God. Towards the end of the movie, when things are looking bleak, and then the judge is about to put down his gavel and proclaim it over, and then all of a sudden there's just a furry hand there. And you're like, wait,
excuse me?
What? And it's that mascot that's just been kind of in the background the whole time.
Justice. I think the weirdest part about that is when they cut back and the suit just kind of falls.
It's empty.
It's like, what was that?
I was like, wait, was that empty? We have to go back and check.
It's the spirit of justice.
Right? It was great. It was absolutely beautiful.
And the conviction that you 100% believe that this legal system is all anybody really believes in these days. Because when the search for the boat rental keeper went out, the entire police force,
that was a good
masse,
scene too.
just
everyone marching down the street.
the whole squad, Gumshoe and crew, just going, we need to find this guy now. Because this is our court system. This is now. This is us. Right. And it made it seem that much more important, even though it was just a dude and his bird. So one of the biggest revelations in the movie, the overarching plot is this case, the brain. It was the DL9, DL6?
Yes.
Brain. There's a case that Mia is looking into from 15 years ago that she thinks is about to get busted wide open. Classic trope. So we get little hints here and there that the smaller crimes in the movie are related to this one back in the day. We get a lot of backstory from Miles and Phoenix and Larry as children, and they look exactly the same.
I love the kids with the hair, the same hair.
And the sort of
That was a
same
great touch.
kempt look.
Yes.
Like, while Phoenix wasn't necessarily in a suit, he still kind of looked like a schlub, like he does in Grown. Miles was very well dressed, and Larry was just a wild kid.
Yep.
And it was fun getting those past moments, those flashbacks. I really wish that this movie gets an official release in America, because this is one of those stories that isn't overtly Japanese. There are some things that we could definitely take and make American, but I don't think that the point of entry is so Japanese that it keeps Americans out.
Yeah, it's not completely unrelatable to a different audience, so it could pretty easily be made fully friendly for people who might not be into.
I mean, the only thing really would be like the spirit medium. That's not necessarily a thing.
That
too
would be
much
a hard
over here?
sell. No, that would be a pretty hard sell.
I
Without
mean,
going overtly paranormal.
How many Oscars did Ghost win? Come on. I mean, we could figure something out.
There
Probably.
would be a way to tie it in. It would just have to be done a little more differently. Probably explained a little bit more.
Yeah, they can make it
it's not
work.
something that you just watch and understand right off the bat. I think I was a pretty good example of that. That first scene threw me for a while until I was like, oh, okay, spirit mediums, that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, when they showed the two little girls and bless the Japanese with their, well, they have to know that it's this character. I knew that was Maya from looking right at her, but as the littler girl. So it was like, okay, yeah, I see what you're doing here, and that made me go, oh well, what's going on?
Why are we seeing this?
Yanni Yogi. All right, sure.
Remember that.
You better remember that.
Right.
So the silliness of the character of Phoenix Wright, do you think that it was a little bit too over the top, or was just enough schlubby to be like, oh, poor guy, he can't even find his own evidence?
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. And I thought it was I don't think it was over the top without being ridiculous to the point where you're like, it's never going to happen like that. Like, it's not plausible.
Like,
so
the suspension of disbelief in this I don't think it's very high, because it's still murder. People are still on their cell phones. It's still law. While it is equivalent to like modern day sports where you have to buy tickets to see this event.
Right.
It's
the courtroom tickets.
Yeah, and pushing evidence in each other's faces. It's still the law. It's still very relatable despite not being too futuristic. It looks modern, so people go, "Oh, it's just a thing. What's with all these televisions?"
Yeah.
Absolute madness. But fun. Ultimately fun. This movie is so fun. And whether you're a fan of the series or not, because this is coming from two Fairweather fans that haven't even completed a full game. This film is a lot of fun for the whole family, and I'm not just saying that because I like making box quotes.
I do have another box quote about that.
Do you? Please. No, please. Yeah.
So, actually, before I toned down my speedrun a little, it was there was a part that was, the outrageous overreaction of character in court manages to be over the top yet funny, whereas the investigative scenes and overall tone and style of the film belays a much more somber tone. While the ridiculousness of the courtroom scenes plays true for fans of the games, outsiders might come out of the film with a truly astounding case of whiplash.
Oh, especially with some of the super comedy lines where everybody
everybody
gets hit with how stupid that was.
It was so great.
I'm not that fluttery. Miles. But those are some of the parts that are
Christmas.
We'll get to that. Okay. Some of the moments are overtly Japanese, and I could even say you could get away with that in like a British version of the movie. But if we're going straight up American, people go, "Why did they fall over?
What just happened?
Why did they fall over?
That's
I don't
not
get
funny.
it.
That's ridiculous." Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know this movie or this game, watch it. Alexis,
to reflect.
Our Alexis, our engineer. Go ahead and come on over the loudspeaker.
Yes.
You were writing us a note about a potential director for a British version of this movie.
Yes. I think even though I know that sometimes he's just a fan of the silliness, I feel like Edgar Wright is really good at doing that.
Yeah,
he
could
movies
pull
like
it
this
off.
where it's extremely epic, but it's extremely silly at the same time.
Dude,
So,
totally.
I would love that.
Yeah.
He gets he could split it right down the middle with the seriousness and the comedy to make it a very real emotional experience. I like that a lot.
He walks
Yeah.
that line well.
Yeah, that's why when I was watching this movie, I was like, "Are you sure Edgar Wright didn't do this film?" Just making sure.
Speaking
Definitely.
of directors, let's talk about the director of this movie, Takashi Miike. Miike is a very controversial director. He likes to push the boundaries when it comes to censorship, sex, and violence. Much of his work depicts the activities of criminals like the Yakuza or concern themselves with the non-Japanese living in Japan. He lists Starship Troopers as one of his favorite movies, and I think that shows a lot in this because Starship Troopers, while being a cheesy like B sci-fi movie, is a very well made and entertaining and real movie. Despite we've got to shoot all these bugs, and he lists Akira Kurosawa, Hideo Gosha, David Lynch, David Cronenberg, and Paul Verhoeven as some of his favorite directors and some of his inspirations, and it comes through.
I think so.
And
See it.
we need more minds like him in American cinema, because sometimes movies are just too dang serious. Like for example, Star Wars, because everything's about Star Wars, had just enough comedy in it to kind of go, haha, but something really bad is happening right now.
Yeah.
So it gets, or something bad is about to happen.
But they were allowed to have moments of humor and moments of lightness,
And those
that
come
helped it a
across
lot.
here.
Oh yeah.
And they start off as funny, and then you see how desperate the characters really are, especially Phoenix. Jeez.
Oh yeah.
So this movie was made by the Nippon Television Network, the Toho Company, and the Capcom Company. It's grossed $6 million domestic. It had a really low budget because it was made on a TV budget, and the lighting sort of dictates that. But it still looks like a gritty courtroom scene. And then once you get out of it, is the bright, happy, all the colorful characters. It's good. It's a good establishment. This came out in February 11th, 2012. Still no word on an American release, though it had been rumored heavily by Capcom. The Phoenix Wright series has changed a lot when it comes to games over the past couple of years. So hope to see this back in some way, shape, or form as a reboot. Like if they release an entire collection of all of the GBA DS games with this movie packaged in with an American release, that's good.
Would be good.
Release it on DS. Give that as a reason for people to buy a DS again. Why not?
Make it relevant again.
We're gonna keep talking about plot and stuff, so don't think that we just skipped over that. I just want to get to some of our fun segments, because we usually run out of time with our casting segments, and that's where we're just gonna go crazy. So there were a lot of American reviews for the movie that I found. One of them, let's start with the negative. Why not? From Variety, Jay Weisberg said, Miike himself seems barely able to muster much enthusiasm for the assignment, which is criminally long and generally lacking in his playful visual hyperbole. Now, I don't know enough of Miike's films to talk about the visual hyperbole, but there is a lot of visual gags in this movie.
Yeah.
And the first half hour, while a little bit slow to start, I don't think that's a crutch. 2 hours and 15 minutes for an adaptation of like a 6-hour, 8-hour game.
It was an ambitious, yeah.
Not bad. What do you think about this review?
I mean, I think he had a lot of visual hyperbole, and I think a lot of it came through. And I actually looked him up immediately after watching the movie, because there were a lot of moments actually where I looked at it, I was like, he's got to have directed a lot of horror.
Yeah? Oh,
That
yeah,
was
because the
my
reveal
first-
shot.
Okay, the birdcage.
That was freaky on Maya's head.
To have nightmares for weeks. That was terrifying.
That was color corrected like it was straight out of The Ring.
I wanted
or-
them to stop right then.
It's like-
I was done, and that stayed on screen for a long time.
It was just like, and it was saying, I love you. Like,
oh yeah.
Oh, God.
I was not so.
But it was striking.
It was
like,
super striking. It was a very strong visual image, and those were throughout the entire movie. That one's the most memorable. But
even like, clearly the CGI of young Miles throwing the gun and it clicking off and hitting his dad, like, even though that was like, this is really CGI, it was still just like, he's been carrying around the guilt of accidentally shooting his father for years. Awful, just awful. And even the couple of quick cuts for while Von Karma was just letting it all go.
that was amazing.
And it was just kind of cutting in and out. I was like, was that my connection?
That was another instant where I was like, well, he has to do horror. The way it was cut was just so. There's a word. It made you feel really distraught. It was disjointed.
It was disturbing.
It was there you go, disturbing. It was very disturbing.
Like, it felt, while it was a murderer's confession, it felt like a horror movie, like a serial killer's
Losing it.
just totally losing it.
Unraveling all over the place.
And at that last minute, just give me my cane. I'm going to walk out of here with my last bit of dignity. What a monster. Yeah, there was a lot of, from looking at this description of Miike, it looks like he got a lot of his style in. Going over the murder scene of Mia's murder with White was spooky.
That was.
And then seeing him killed and utilizing the bird feathers, the Polly's bird feathers around as a visual clue, as a hint. He left, I want to go back now, rewatch it so I can see what hints were there, because there were a couple here and there of like, oh, it's totally Von Karma. Thinking back, like at the boathouse and...
Right. Well, as soon as they started talking about how he had only taken 1 day off in 15 years, I was like, oh, well, he's got something to do with this.
That's
I didn't
suspect.
immediately pin him as the murderer, the overall big bad, but I was like, well, he's obviously involved.
He did something. And when they were talking about perfection, they showed the flashback of Miles' father about the perfection with Yogi. Just pure, unadulterated craziness to think that somebody for justice would... I mean, his explanation was, you're safer, I'm keeping all of these creeps off the street. And that's that demented thinking, man.
Yeah.
That's a good villain.
That's when the justice goes too far.
Batman. That's a good villain. Awesome villain. Positive review. Richard Eisenbeis of Kotaku. Gyakuten Saiban is by far the best video game adaptation I've ever seen, though given how low that bar is, I'll do you one better. Gyakuten Saiban is on its own a fun, engaging mystery comedy and a legitimately good movie. And I would agree with that. And we know about that low bar of video game movies, though we've seemed to have found a couple.
We have.
And I think this is...
It's some fun.
So the thing about selecting the movies that we do each week, when we get a good one, it's really hard to go back down into the dregs, because I'm like...
It hurts.
It's like, I want to do one that I know I can at least have some fun with.
You can't always have joy.
Sometimes
we have to suffer.
And that's Video Game Movie Anatomy. We do that for you. So to start wrapping up, because we're not totally done yet, we have a couple of fun games that we play, like our favorite line. We each discuss favorite line or lines from the movie that totally stood out to us. Since we had already alluded to it earlier, I'm just going to go with mine first.
Go ahead.
One of the first instances of Phoenix really trying to buy himself some time. They're looking at the photos. It's just kind of on the hinge of... We could have done this as our Christmas movie. On the hinge of Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. When you say it was a little after midnight on Christmas Eve, would it be more exact to say that it was Christmas Day? And everybody just like,
Done.
what the hell? Like, no,
over.
stop that. It's perfect. And I saw that all over Tumblr on Christmas Day.
Beautiful.
Is so good. What about you?
So, one of the first one, it's another Wright line, of course. It's when he's trying to figure out what happened to the second bullet. And he kind of looks at everybody and he goes, how does somebody took it sound?
Yeah. What?
I was like, oh gosh.
Who?
Oh, gosh.
What? Who took what?
Phoenix, just wait.
Hey, give it a shot. Hey, try it.
Just,
But I also liked
Well,
when he was just like really strict. And
stop doing that.
then stop trying to buy yourself more time. God.
But everyone kind of engaged him on the what if somebody took it. Like they kind of kept going with it.
Yeah,
I
it's
was
like,
oh god.
What? I mean, yes, but evidence.
Yeah.
God, there's a lot of good ones in here.
Yeah.
So another fun game that we like to play is we like to recast movies with different themes. For this one, since it was a Japanese movie, if they made this movie today in America, what actors would you want to see playing the different parts? So we got a lot of people for this one. Sometimes we like to do top 3, but since it was such a big ensemble cast, we're going with a lot. So let's start with our starring lad, Mr. Phoenix Wright. Who in American cinema today would you like to see play Mr. Phoenix Wright?
All right. Well, since you've already said it all goes back to Star Wars. I put John Boyega.
You put Boyega?
I did. I think he's got that wide-eyed, like, possibility to be really, really excitable, but also really,
and you see him breathe heavily and be nervous a lot?
Yeah.
I do like that a lot. I
And imagine him with the hair. Just think about it for a minute.
John Boyega with the
Just think
Phoenix
about
Wright.
it. You're welcome.
Oh, goodness gracious. I like that a lot. I really do. So I thought of a couple of people for this one. I like one because he's young and the other because I think he fits really well. In terms of youth and being fresh off the market for being an attorney, Ansel Elgort from The Fault in Our Stars and Divergent. I like him a lot, and he's got kind of that silliness to him. But the guy who I would go immediately, like the image of him in this suit with that hair would sell everybody on this movie, and that's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He would sell that movie 10,000%.
That's who you would need in order to sell this movie to an American
You need a
audience.
really strong, kind of comedic, kind of serious guy. Let's go from there to, I think just because it's the next picture, Maya. Who do you have?
Maya, I chose Aubrey Plaza.
Really?
I did.
I mean, is it because of Avatar? Is it because she was one of the twins in Korra? And it's kind of a similar
even
look?
think about that, actually.
Oh, jeez. So sticky. I like that, but I don't see Ingenue. I don't see Ingenue in her. So that's the one thing that I think we'd be missing. Speaking of The Fault in Our Stars, Shailene Woodley, I could see her.
Maya, okay.
But going back to Star Wars, Miss Daisy Ridley, I think she would have a lot of fun.
I looked at my list and I was like, I can't cast Star Wars for every role.
Oh, I got another one in here too. I got another Star Wars in here too.
But I did consider Daisy Ridley because I thought she would do a phenomenal job.
Yeah, she's got like strong ingenue. So if they did it more like in the games,
right.
I think she could hit that really fun because it would be a departure for her.
Just to add to the Star Wars stuff, I think Oscar Isaac could do well as a Phoenix.
We're not quite there yet.
Phoenix.
Who's
You know what I mean.
who's next on the list? Mr. Miles Edgeworth, who I put down, Mr. Oscar Isaac,
Dang it.
All right.
because I see him in that hair. Like I totally
That would
see him
be
in that.
beautiful.
Well, no,
Not
Miles.
evil, but you know what I mean.
He's a prosecutor, but Miles isn't necessarily evil, and
Right.
not just in the game or in the movie, but in the game.
Yeah. I
Who
just don't want him to be scowling the whole time. He has a great face.
then
That's
it's
true.
Then it's a gift when he smiles.
Yeah.
Like
okay,
it
fine.
usually
All right,
is.
All right, you win. All right. I'll go back in my cape now.
No. Please keep butting in when you would like to, and I meant that nicely. I said butt because I looked at butts.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's hard not to do.
I have another one for Edgeworth, but I want to hear yours first.
Okay, so Oscar Isaac was one.
Nice.
My other one is Tom Felton.
I didn't think of him.
He can have that ridiculousness.
Yes, he
and I think
can.
he could rock that hair and that entire outfit.
You know who I want to see rock that outfit is Mr. Chris Hemsworth.
Yes, please.
Oh my god, yes. That's beautiful.
Because we know he can do comedy, but he could also, like Thor rides that line where he's ultimately serious, but he's got a little bit more comedy in him. And I think he could have a hell of a time. And plus, he has a little bit more of a physical presence to anybody that you put on the other side of that. But he could just wear looser clothes, but nobody would buy that.
No, not really.
Let's move on to our next picture. We have Mr. Dick Gumshoe. I originally had like 4 people, but the first 2 I threw out for these other 2. Who do you have for Mr.
So
Gumshoe?
this one I had a tough time with, mostly because of the discrepancy between the game and then the movie version. I played it kind of in between to play off of it. I chose Matt McGorry.
What's Matt McGorry from?
He is in Orange is the New Black. He's one of the officers.
Yes,
and
I know him.
he's also How to Get Away with Murder.
Okay. I like that. That's good. Ooh.
Carl Urban?
Carl Urban. Carl Urban
that
is
would be good.
It'd be like Bones without the Midwestern accent.
Yes, pretty much.
But speaking of Australians, Hugh Jackman. I like middle of the road. Like we haven't seen him really play like a putz.
Yeah,
and I think
exasperated, aloof.
Yeah,
type of-
but if you want to go a little bit younger, then you go with the new version of that, which is Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I know. No. He was on one of my early drafts.
From the chat, Jonas Tiger suggests Alicia Vikander as Maya. And I like it for the look. But I haven't seen her in anything yet. I didn't see Deus Ex.
Would Fillion be too far?
No, Fillion would be great.
Fillion would be good.
Yeah.
That'd be. I mean, you would already have. I think for casting, as I would love to go like super nerd. But since it's a video game property, you got to go with as many names as you can.
You have to have the big names.
And I do think that they would spend all of their money on the main folk. And if it's as small of a part as it is this, I think they would get Fillion for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I also considered Alan Tudyk for for Gumshoe.
Yes, I want it.
Yeah, I like that
it
too.
bad.
Tudyk, he's too good. And then let's go to our next person, Mr. Larry Butts. I only got one person for this.
So do I.
Who do you have?
Ben Schwartz.
That's
gonna say
much
that.
better than mine. That's much.
exactly
I
gonna
said
say
Zac.
that.
I said Zac Efron. I said Zac
Oh.
Efron, but I like yours a lot better.
No,
Zac
Ben
Efron
Schwartz
is
is
good,
the
but
best.
Ben Schwartz, I kind of
would've
looked at
been
him and I
perfect.
was like, all right, who could play? There's
Schwartz.
only one answer.
That's really good.
That's it.
I really like
That's
that
it.
because you can see it. He would wear a damn orange jacket.
Yes.
Oh God, that's fun.
The ridiculous hair, absolutely.
Oh, that's so much fun. Okay,
Good time.
next, I believe we have Von Karma. We're going with a seasoned actor, somebody who's really imposing, can get away with the Liberace look. Who do you have?
Donald Sutherland.
Yeah,
I too had Donald Sutherland.
I don't know if I would go that old, but I like it.
That was one of my little concerns, but he's kind of Von Karma to me.
Yeah, fair enough. And I put Pacino because he's done Legal and he's done that outfit before.
Nice.
But then I went, here's a guy who's gonna go crazy. He has to be a little bit boisterous and he has to have that tint in his voice that makes you go, he might be a little bit crazy. J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons in that I think could just be super crazy.
That would be a fun role.
And that too.
Yeah.
I think he would have a lot of fun with that because he gets to be dramatic, but then he also gets to be that little shade of crazy. And finally,
Right.
our judge, the man above it all. You can go a couple of ways with this, but we're going even older than Mr. Von Karma. What do you got?
So I played a little bit more off of the video game on this one, and went with Stanley Tucci.
I like that a lot. I don't think the age is there, but I don't think it has to be
No.
because he can make up for it with that very good performance.
Kingsley?
Ben Kingsley, I think, would be very
That's a
fun.
good one.
That would be more of the movie role. I think a split down the middle of that would be Tommy Lee Jones because
Oh, gee.
he could be calm, but when he does go loud, he could be very silly and boisterous. Even from the Japanese commercials that he's done, like he knows that world and I think he'd be a great mind to kind of translate that.
It would be a good fit.
But
and
if you're
it just
if
fits
you're
in
going
right
straight from the movie, absolute fun one, Harrison Ford. Just put him bald and in a beard, and he gets to talk at normal level the whole time. All right, what is that offense?
there. He can be as grumpy as he wants.
John Voight. That would be interesting. Maybe John Voight for you gotta put who you want him for in this one because we're a little bit behind. But I could see John Voight as a Manfred von Karma.
That would work.
I can see that. Morgan Freeman as the judge.
I love him in anything. So.
Yeah, that's the thing
Go
is
for
you
it.
can put him
I mean,
in
he
anything.
could pull it off.
He could be Phoenix Wright for all he could be Maya for all I care.
Yes.
I don't give a good gosh dang.
No, I want him to be Maya. That's it. Done.
Fair enough.
Perfect. Fan cast complete.
Disgusting. I love it. Final thoughts about the movie. I can't speak right now, so go ahead, please.
The first 30 minutes, I was convinced I was going to hate every remaining second. And then as we pushed on, I loved it so much. It was so great.
It had to be that seriousness to spring off of.
Yes.
It's a movie that doesn't come along very often, that hits a lot of different types of emotions and feelings and beats. The only criticism that I would say is we spend just enough time with Mia to care about her death.
Right.
If we got to spend a little bit more of a daily basis with her and Phoenix and know how much Phoenix relies on her, then I think that could have been a little bit bigger of a moment.
You get that a little bit more in the game because
Yeah.
they do the little forwards and stuff. So I agree. And I probably wouldn't have been as invested in it either had I not watched that part of the game before watching the movie.
Then we'd be at 2.5 hours, maybe 2:20. Because, I mean, it was the full movie from top to bottom,
Right.
and credits like with Japanese films. They kept going. They had a fun little side story from the games that showed how much of a fanboy Edgeworth was. Now, they switched it because they make reference to the samurai and the ninja at the shop with the giant blow up.
Right.
But they switched which one he was a fan of, and I can't remember at the time. But it was still just more fun. There needs to be more fun in the courtroom, and that's what Gyakuten Saiban, or Ace Attorney, does for you. So before we get going, there's this, the last thing that we like to do is we like to either give the movie and the franchise a game over or an extra life. Stacey, what do you give?
I'll watch more Ace Attorney.
So
Let's go.
give it all of the extra
Yeah.
lives.
Especially with our fan cast. Just saying.
Oh, yeah. No, let's go with our fan
Let's
cast. We
get
need to
that going,
decide
yeah.
that, post it, and just Photoshop all of the faces onto all of the right people.
Absolutely.
That would be a lot of fun.
Perfect.
I want to see this movie. I hope so much that this movie comes out officially in America soon. It's been 3 years. Almost, we're coming up on 4 this November. I think Capcom owes it to the fans to. It's
time.
It's time. We're done doing fan dubs. I mean, official dubs that happen to be on the internet. What? More, please. We'll happily take it. Same cast, different cast. Yeah, preferably same cast.
I like that cast. That was a good cast.
There's a lot of fun folk. Let's get more. Let's get the new characters that you've introduced. Let's get a Miles Edgeworth movie. Let's see more from the Ace Attorney franchise. Thank you, Capcom. So that'll do it for us on this episode of Video Game Movie Anatomy. Before we go, we want to let you know what we're doing in 2 weeks, because there is going to be an HD re-release of the Resident Evil 0 franchise, and we've already covered the first Resident Evil. We're going to do Resident Evil Apocalypse. As much as I dread watching a Resident Evil movie, because I missed that one, thankfully, we're going
time to sit down and grab the popcorn.
but that means I have to catch up and watch the first
Wow.
one and
I'll
watch
help
the
you,
second
Mark.
one.
I love and hate those movies at the same time, so we can watch it together.
Okay, that'll make
Yay.
it better.
I'll make dinner.
Friendship. This friendship
Except it's
has
better.
set sail. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Video Game Movie Anatomy. Stacey, tell the folks at home where they can find you.
All right,
in the
you can
meantime.
find me either whining about my personal TV preferences at Ye Old Nerd on Twitter. I'm not that whiny. Okay?
No, not too. No.
Or discussing things in a little more scholarly of a manner at Nerds Doing Stuff, also on Twitter or on our website.
And you guys just started Nerds Doing Cosplay.
We have officially announced that.
You're going to be going a little bit more hardcore on the cosplay end.
We are.
If
I have a room now.
If you do, and it's pretty magical. If anybody goes, she looks really familiar. How do I know her? I know her from somewhere. The quintessential Kristoff and Anna cosplay from Frozen, right here, the Shuttleworths, an amazing
thank
group of
you.
cosplayers, and there's going to be more. And I'm going to be utilizing your services in the near future for all of you
counting
Ruby
on
fans
it.
out there. It's been something that I've been trying to do for a long time. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Soapbox Mark. This Thursday, speaking of Ruby, we're going to have Shannon McCormick and Sam Ireland from the show on Skype. We're going to be talking about episodes 7 and 8. We're going to be doing Resident Evil Apocalypse. There's 6 movies. I'm going to get them confused.
The Ruby one sounds more exciting. I'll be there.
So
kidding,
remember,
I'm very
Resident
excited
Evil
for Resident
Apocalypse
Evil.
we're going to be doing in 2 weeks. Patrick Dees will be joining us. He is at P to the D's. And if you missed it, I did a Hot Pepper Game review. If you go to Hot Pepper Gaming, I reviewed Star Wars Battlefront. It was a great time, and I would do it again happily. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Video Game Movie Anatomy. We'll see you at the arcade.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.